You spent 40 years, you are now the chairman of the CRA, obvious conflicts there. You spent 40 years and during that time in the judiciary, you would have had to balance your personal views with the public good. You would have had to balance the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. I don't mean to cast any aspersions on you. I don't want to hire the Tianjin Apology Company, but how dirty are your hands and how have you handled it?
No, thank you. I think that's a very troubling question. It is a haunting question. It's a haunting question. How dirty is my hands? I get involved. Yeah, I try to understand what the issues are. I try to understand the rules of gaming. I try to understand the behavior of potential gamblers. I try to understand the economic value of this. I try to understand the social repercussions of this particular area. So I dirty my hands trying to understand that. And what plans and what policies need to be put into place in order to prescribe the harm as less as possible. And that's where the challenge really is. I think, fortunately, I think we are beginning to see less and less local citizens and PRs patronizing the casinos. Remember, of course, that casinos was not my doing. Casinos was a political decision in which we found ourselves in this particular area. But let me sort of turn back the question to you. Would you rather have someone who is unethical, or to put it in a raw form, a non-Christian, running the Casino Regulatory Authority? Would you rather have somebody else of a different shade and inclination running the Casino Regulatory Authority? So I think it's a dilemma. I'm not saying that I've solved it. My colleague from the authority is here. We are faced with the same dilemma. It gives me nightmares from time to time when you read of accounts of the consequences of that. And that's one of the reasons why I had quoted Joseph Nye, that whenever we judge this issue of effective leadership, we tend towards looking at consequences. And I think we need to sort of remember that there are other dimensions that are also involved in this particular area.
Good evening, Mr. Gay, Mr. Magnus. I have a question concerning the apathetic members of society. What is the best way, in your opinion, to get the apathetic members of society involved in reaching the best decision possible? Assuming that effective leaders, or one of the roles of effective leaders is to get consensus among everyone else. At the same time, without crossing the ethical line between coercing these apathetic members of society and persuading them.
And I think that's a brilliant question. I think first, engagement is in fact a norm now. It has to be a norm. I think we cannot anymore go on the basis of making decisions autocratically without and saying that I know really what the answers are and it is actually for your own good. I think that norm is now out of the question. I mentioned the issue of adaptive change or adaptive challenge. I mentioned it quite briefly, but it is exactly the manifestation of an adaptive change. So engagement must become a norm. Question is whether you can reach at a consensus. In reality, consensus means everybody agrees. And the only body that has decided on the norm of consensus is the European Union as well as ASEAN. No other bodies have done it. In other words, it is not realistic within a society which is multicultural like Singapore, which is multi-religious like Singapore, and now I think cosmopolitan like Singapore, to be able to arrive at a consensus. In other words, everybody agrees that this should be done. But everybody can agree, I think, with the ethics of it, with the ethics of the decision that is being made. And therefore, ethics will be the one that binds and glue I think the population at large. There are quite a number of examples of this, but essentially that would be the reality of it.
I just want to pick up also on this point about the new normal that you were talking about, Mr. Magnus. You were talking about those two events you were at, those town hall meetings. You were speaking about historical setting, and you were talking about historical responses. Yeah. Isn't that part of the reason why there is apathy on the part of the citizenry as well to what's happening around them, and their, if you like, cynical response? Without
passing any judgment on the constituency or the people attending those town hall meetings, I think their comments were sincere. They made those comments because they felt for their neighborhoods, they felt for their families. One of them said, of course, that, if you take away my void deck, where do my children play football, where can we get the wind in the evenings? And of course there are extremes in regard to that. One chap said that if you do that, you take away the feng shui to my house. So I think they were quite sincere in regard to that. I think so it becomes an adaptive challenge. The question, I think, for the leaders then is to be able to, the leaders then is really to move in a different way in order to engage their concerns, sympathize, empathize with them, and try and work with them with a common solution. The example that is given in Kennedy School is this. If I were to go to you and I say, doctor, I've got a flu, you would say, yeah, take Panadol, 2 times a day, whatever it is. If I go to you and I say, doctor, no, I've got cancer, you say, okay, let's embark on a course of chemotherapy. But if I were to come to you and you are not able to diagnose my disease, and I have to depend upon you for the answer, what do you do? So the solution to that would be, one solution to that would be for the doctor to work with the patient and say, I don't know what the problem is, but I'm prepared to walk this particular part of your life with you. And I think that's an adaptive change. There's no answers. We do not know what the answers is going to be, but the ability to walk that journey with the concerns becomes...
You were suggesting that they weren't doing that, though. Are they?
Well, I think the question was, why don't you build it there? And they say, yeah, we look at you, and then we will study the technical aspects of it. I mean, it is slightly different. So in other words, it is still, I know best. This is the way I think it should be done. Okay? Of course, subsequently, there was a report in the Straits Times that the government is going to build 100 of such centers. They have designated the places, etc. And they did mention that they're going to do that, recognizing the protest or the challenges that citizens have in this particular place. So it's an issue of leadership, effective leadership, and things of that. But if you go into the ethics of it, and says, this is the problem, why we're having it, we've got to take care of the old, we've got to make sure that we owe them this care, love thy neighbor, so to speak, which is the ethics part of it, and play up the ethics part. In other words, magnify the ethics part, then there will be the modding. But unfortunately, in those 2 town halls, the ethic part was either downplayed or was missing.